Hello everyone and welcome back to Dual Universe. So I decided to do another tutorial on how to build ships, so-called all-in-one tutorial. I do have an old tutorial which still does work just fine, but there are just so many more things that I'd like to tell you and show you that I'm gonna just make a new one. And I'm gonna just share you some of the tips and tricks and show you how to start the ship build to begin with. Alright, so let's start with the core unit. First of all, you can need the ground element tool, which is this one. Deploy ground element tool, whichever toolbar you have it on, and then you're gonna search for the core unit. And then you're going to drag the core into your tool. I already have it, so there is no point doing that, but I did it anyway. And once you're done with that, then you're gonna just point it at the ground, and then you can move it with a page up and down, and then the arrow keys. But in order to place it, you have to actually be inside the build zone. So let's place it a little bit off the ground. That's always a good idea, to place it off the ground. That should be fine. And we're gonna call it this example, whatever. Call it whatever you want it. And that's gonna put you into the build mode. What I like to do first is draw some lines, but before I move on to that, let's talk about materials, the honeycombs. First of all, the honeycombs are not even necessary. As you can see, that ship in there, it's pretty much floating stuff. I made it like this alien style. But you don't need to connect anything up with the honeycombs at all. You can just leave everything floating and it will work just fine. So the honeycombs are just for the visuals. But I first like to draw a line like so. And I jumped the gun in here again. The honeycombs, the best building materials, it depends what you need the ship to do. If you're building a PvP ship, like this TIE fighter in here, then I recommend using some strong materials that have a lot of hit points. And this you can obviously check from your inventory. If we're gonna do that, we're gonna filter them by materials and then honeycomb. I don't think there is no filter for the strength, but you're gonna just have to inspect them and check the resistance. And then also check the weight of each material, because some materials, they are heavier and they have, you know, more resistance or same resistance. See, this one has better resistance to electromagnetic, and this one has more against thermic. So you have to look at them, and then the weight. This one weighs a lot more. So you have to consider all of these options. There is no you know, easy answer to that. It all depends what you want your ship to do. If you're just building a hauler ship, then I heavily recommend carbon fiber, because carbon fiber is second lightest material. It's only 4 kilos per cubic meter. And the lightest material is luminescent. If I can just find it. There we go. Let me check that one. That's 2, I believe. Yes, 2. Here I have a list of some of the lightest materials. There might be something missing between the concrete and plastic, but a lot of people think that plastic is one of the lightest, but as you can see, it's not even in the top 5. I have no idea why the brick and concrete are lighter than plastic, but this is game physics, so you should know of these things, you know, before you start putting plastic on your build, because plastic is actually quite heavy. Right, so if you care about the looks, then I think carbon fiber is the best way to go, and just mix it with like some wood and concrete or whatever, you know, something like that. Brick is one of the lightest also. We are not talking about designing the ship, I'm just talking about the basic building, what the ship needs. That's definitely not something that the ship needs. So we're gonna start off with a seat. First of all, you need to know that these command seats, they are quite heavy. They are 3.5 tons, so I would not recommend using them on smaller ships. So I would heavily recommend using the hovercraft seat. So first of all, what you need to note is the coordinates. See the X, Y, Z, the top one, which shows you the position on the unit. Because some people, they just don't pay attention to that, and then they end up with non-symmetrical builds and everything is like twisted, and that's just no in my book. But it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't really, you know, matter if the seat is a little bit here or there, but it does change the center of the mass, which is represented by these lines in here. See where they all meet? That's where the center of the mass is. So you should keep this pretty much in the middle, or best you can do. So anyway, let's put down the seat, and if you plan on using any custom Lua or Lua script for the flight, then you need data bank. We're gonna put the data bank down and link it to the seat. There we go. I also recommend having the emergency control unit. I think I need to remove the dynamic properties first. Yeah, one of them had it on, two of them actually. And these are just damaged, so that's fine. I don't want to have any stuff on them. And this thing you link directly to the core unit, right? And you have to arm it. This prevents your ship from like falling down in case you like jump out of the seat or like get disconnected or something. In space it just stops your ship wherever it is, and in atmosphere I believe it tries to land your ship, so it's quite important to have, you know, just in case. I am building an XS core, as you can see. So on an XS core there are a couple of builds I can show you which I have. This one I didn't completely make it, I just made it better, but it's decent design. Two big engines, two big space engines. Yeah, this is a decent build. Also this one in here, which has one large atmospheric engine and then four medium space engines. And then this one, which is a warp ship. It has a warp drive on it. It doesn't carry much weight. Again, like I said, it highly depends what you want your ship to do. So this one is for warping. This one is kind of like in the, you know, middle, kind of, you know, cool looking, and also, you know, able to take some cargo and stuff. And that one is mostly for the cargo, you know, it doesn't really do anything else. It's, you know, designed for just lifting, and that's why it's quite basic shape, you know, no windows or anything. I'm gonna try to show you a generic, you know, ship. So we're gonna start by putting atmospheric engine on it. Engine on it. Jesus Christ, what am I saying? Let's use one of these that is a little bit broken. That's fine. Right, and let's talk about the placing of the element. Depending on which axis you point on, I'm gonna just make a cube in here to make it a little bit, you know, better illustrated. So if you point on this side, like so, it goes like this. Like this, it goes like that, and obviously on top it goes like this. But you can also press R by default to rotate it on that specific axis. And if I hold R, press and hold, I can do that. And a lot of people don't even know how to rotate things on different axes. They like, oh, but how do I rotate it the other way? You aim at this axis and then hold R, and then you can rotate it this way. And same way in here, if you point at this axis, and if you can't see, just disable the tool, aim at the axis you want to, you know, place it on, and then enable the tool. And then just press any of the arrow keys, and then it sticks to it. There you go. And again, if you hold R, you can rotate it like this, or if you press it once, then it's gonna turn it like this. So this is how you do that stuff, right? Let's get rid of that cube. And we want to place it at the back in here. Whoops. And we want it straight. Then we move it inwards with page up, down, or the arrow keys. And I want it exactly middle, which is, as you can see, 0. So we want it 0 on the x-axis, 0 on the z-axis, and y is this way, which we don't want 0. You should never put elements right next to the corner where the edges are. So if you enable this build box in here, see where it is? You should never place them exactly on the edge, because sometimes they just get blocked if you need to replace them with a different, you know, engine or something. So it's always better to put, you know, a little bit of room, like so. That's fine. I think one block is more than enough. Yeah, that's fine. Right, we don't need to actually delete this, but I like to delete it. I don't like to leave the voxels inside the elements. So next thing, we need fuel tanks. A small fuel tank, let's use a medium one, shall we? So we put, I have other stuff in the way now, but that's fine. I'm not trying to win any design contests with this video in here, so. Then we link the engine to the fuel tank, so it's not blinking, because this is just getting on my eyes. Then we're gonna look for space fuel tank. Let's also put the medium one. And sometimes if you move them like this, even if it's blue, then sometimes it doesn't click in. Okay, it did. And also if you do have room on your build, then you should leave some gaps between it. Because if you like crash your ship or something, then it does have a chain reaction and it will blow up everything in the vicinity. So that's not, you know, always a good idea to stack items, you know, like next to each other. But on smaller ships you just don't really have a choice, you know. But I'm just saying that if you do have a room, then you should leave a little bit of room. Right, but the next thing is to note the cross sections on your build, which is, excuse me, that's in the atmospheric list. There we go. Cross sections, that's what we want to look at. And the frontal cross section, you should keep it as low as possible. And if you're asking, huh? The cross section is what you can see when you're looking at the build from the front. That's the front cross section. So all this area right now is from like there. Okay, I can't draw a line, but you get it. From this corner down here, here and up here. This is what the frontal cross section is right now. So try to keep this as small as possible, because this, you know, produces the wind resistance, and you don't want that. You want to keep it as low as possible, because this way you reduce the atmospheric burn, and also you need less engine power to keep your build moving. In space obviously it doesn't matter, because there is no atmosphere. Alright, so let's move on and put some space engines on it. Depending again what you need to do with this build. And one of the things, you should not point at the elements like this, like I'm doing, because let me show you with something small, like this light for example. No, this is better. Yeah, look at the angles it goes under. You see, when you're moving it, you see how it twists. It looks like this is a flat surface, right? It really looks like it's flat surface. But if you point something like that, okay, now it goes into the magnetic thing. But yeah, if you place on this magnetic thing, it's also higher up. I'm gonna just use this to show you. See, it doesn't go directly on it. But sometimes the magnetic thing doesn't show, or if you place it further away from it, see, it goes directly onto the element. And look how it goes. See, it twists sideways. You can clearly see it's twisted. And this is how some people manage to get all the stuff twisted on their build. Like they look, ooh, look, flat surface, and then they try to place an engine in there, like so. And see, it's all twisted, and that's how they end up with all this twisted stuff. So instead, put some voxels inside here, like so. Then aim the engine on top of that and enable the tool. Use the arrow keys to move it, so you can get out of the way. Wait, it's in the outside. And we're gonna move it down like this, and I think that should do it. I think it's not gonna actually go, but let's try. Okay, it did go. So we link this to the fuel tank, so it's not blinking. And there we go, there is our space engine. So this should be more than enough to get this build into the space, because that's XS core, and we put large engines on it. This one in there, like I showed, it has two space and atmospheric engines, which is a lot of thrust, you know. That one has only 3 medium ones. And if you're wondering the thrust capability, then it's 1:6 ratio when going up or down the size. For example, let's check the M1 and let's check the L1 if we compare these two, and let's also check an S1. So we're gonna put them like so, and if we check the S1, yeah, that's exactly 6 times. And this one is 6 times of that. And that's how it goes up in size. So if you're gonna put 1 L, then that's equal to 6 medium ones. So as you can see, that ship in there, it only has 3 medium ones, which is equal to a half of this in here. However, there are different engine types, such as like military engine, and if you compare this one to the basic one, and let's also compare it to the, I believe I have maneuver one, then they all have different stats. And again, it all depends what you want your ship to do. As you can see, the maneuver one, it has the same thrust, but it has better warm-up time. And if you compare the military engine, then this one has more thrust, but it also takes more fuel. If you look at the fuel consumption, the maneuver one is the least fuel, and the military one, it requires a lot of fuel. It's almost twice as much as the maneuver one. So if you're just trying to, you know, cruise and not, you know, rush anywhere, then the maneuver ones are the best. But if you just really need to lift the weight, then you want the military ones. So that's how it works. And there are also freight engines and also safe engines, like on these ones. These are the safe ones. I think the safe ones are a little bit more durable, which is good for like PvP ships. I don't really know the safe ones, I don't really like using them. And then we have the freight engines, which are lighter, which is also better for the cargo, I believe. Now that we have the engines, we're gonna have to add some wings. So let's put wing M, and these are the best wings to use. Like, there are a lot of different things. I'm gonna first put it into my list in here. For example, we have ailerons, we have all different kind of things. Then we also have stabilizers, and these L stabilizers, these are massive. Look at the size of the L stabilizer. It doesn't even fit onto an XS core, as you can see. And if you're asking what is the difference between all that, well, let me explain. The stabilizers, let me just also take out the wing M and inspect it. The stabilizers, they have very high stall angle, but they also cause a lot of drag, which is says in here. So as you can see, the max lift in here, it's 4 times more than the wing M. And look at the mass, where is it? Here. The mass is a lot more than 4 times. So if you will put 4 of these wings, then you get the same lift as the stabilizer L with a lot less weight than the stabilizer. And if you look at what was it in here? Lift to drag ratio, the higher it is, the better it is. And the stall angle, well, this is the higher the better. But I mean, 55 degrees, that's already pretty good, so you don't have to worry about that. And yeah, this is why the M wings are the best ones to use, because they have the best ratio of everything. They're like, and look at the size itself, look how big this is compared to the M wing. You can put like, I don't know, 10 of M wings inside of that. So these stabilizers, they are just cool for, you know, the looks, if you want to use them on a bigger ship or something, but for performance wise, you don't really want them. Alright then, let's talk about the wings and how to place them on your build. We want definitely more wings, and if you're asking how many, well, ideally as much as you can fit, but don't go crazy either. And with the wings there is a really good trick. I'm gonna put them like this. Note the coordinates 18, 25, 8. And there is a trick with this. If you press the mouse button, then it's gonna unstick the wing after you place it. But if you place it with enter, like so, then the next wing is gonna stay there, and you can use the arrow keys to move it upwards, as you can see, like so. So we move it up by 4 blocks. Let's put like, that's 3, 4, 5, yeah, let's put like 7 wings on each side. And now if you're asking how to reverse this, you can do that. point it at this part of the wing, like so. Move it like that, and then we remember the coordinates. It was 18, and there we go. It's exactly in the same place. And then we just move it down. We put 7 wings, I believe. So that's 4th one, 5th one, 6, and 7. Is it 7? No, I put more. Okay, that's good enough. And let's check how much lift it has right now. Okay, that's a little bit too much lift. I went a little bit cuckoo lala with it, but okay, that's fine. Right, we also want a container on this ship, obviously. And since it is an XS core ship, I think 2 M containers is more than enough, which is equal to 1 L container. And here is another tip for you. A lot of people are using the XXL containers, but it is again the same thing. I don't have an XSL in my inventory at the moment, I think, so I can't show you the specs of that. Actually, I can show you from the, excuse me. Here we have expanded basic container XXL. Let's just inspect it. I know the stats are up there too, but whatever. And if we compare these two, look at the capacity. It is 4 times more. This one, the XXL, is 4 times more than the L one. But let's look at the weight of the container itself. If you put this 4 times, that will be about 56 tons, something like this. A little bit more, 67, 68, something like that. But this one, it's 88 tons. So again, there is the difference between the weight on the containers. And it's not just the weight, it is also the visual look of the container. So here is a comparison for you. This is the XXL and this one is the L. I can even show you with an L container. I mean, look at the size difference between. So it is literally twice as big. I mean, you save twice as much room if you use the L containers. Because as you can see, the one XXL is the size of 8 L containers. Little bit even more, look where the edge is on that one, see? And if we compare that, see? And then we still have little bit left. So it's more than 8 times bigger, and this is why you don't want to use them. Because it just wastes the actual visual, the physical room, and it is a lot heavier compared to the, you know, the L container. I mean, the room to weight ratio is a lot worse on the XXL ones. Alright, so we are not gonna put an L container, although you can fit an L container on an XS ship. It's not a problem. You can even fit 2 of them in here. That's not a problem. But it really isn't necessary because, I mean, you could put actually 2 L containers on an XS ship. But I'm not gonna do that. You just have to fiddle around with it. We're gonna put container M on it. And if you're asking what about the M container, then that's the same ratio as the L container, or very close to it at least. I haven't done the exact math, but it's very close to it. And we want these containers somewhere near the front, because see, look at the center of mass. It's heavily on the rear side, so we want to balance it with these containers. So let's move them a little bit closer. We can actually put them somewhere in here, like so. 8. We put it with space, so we can, I mean enter, so we can move it like this, and the other one is -8, so. And if you're asking, well, don't ask at all, we can use a container hub in here. And there is also another trick. If we're gonna put the container hub, let me just show you this trick. Let me put it in here. Let me link these containers to it. Right. Look where the center of the mass is right now. Okay, it doesn't matter actually. Let's just put something really heavy into that container. So let's see what's really heavy. Actually, let's put iron in here. Okay, that's a lot of weight, right? And look where the center of the mass is. And this is not because of the containers, this is because of the hub. Check this out. If I put the hub, let's put it in the middle. You see, center of the mass jumps in there. If you're gonna put it on this edge in here, center of the mass goes here. So the containers, they only count for the weight they are themselves. Like this weight in here, which is 7.2 tons. This is the only weight they add to the ship if you use a hub. So let's just move this out of the way again. There we go. And this is why it is important to have the hub in a way that if you put the weight on your ship, then it's gonna remain in the center. So generally you want the hub in the center, but if your ship is a little bit offset like that, then you want to put it a little bit, you know, forward. The best way is to just put the weight into your ship and then fiddle around with the hub and center it, you know. That's the best way to do it. Alrighty then, now you know how to put the containers and the hub. So I think there's something missing, like the hover engines. We need to move it a little bit up in order to put that on. And there are also a couple of tricks about the hover engines. So we have these basic hover engines and we have the flat ones. And basically the flat ones are all that people use. And there is a very good reason for that. They have the same exact stats, but look at the size difference between them. That's a flat hover, like that. Let's just put one on. And then we have this one. Look at the size difference. Like, I don't know what the heck this is even supposed to be. And they have exactly identical stats, so yeah. I don't know. These are just for designing, I guess. They do look cool though. I gotta give you that, but right. We're gonna use the flat ones. These are the best ones to use. So we put one here, excuse me, one maybe here. I'm not lining them up properly, and one in the middle. And again, if you're asking how many of them you need, that depends how much weight you want to use on your ship. Or well, lift with your ship, not use. Right, so we link them in there. It's also a good idea to have a separate tank for the hovers. It's not necessary, but you know, if you're incompetent and not, you know, very confident in your skills, then you should have a separate tank. Because if you're flying and you run out of fuel, then it's still better to have some fuel left in the hover, so at least you can land without crashing into the ground. So the best way to check how much hovers you need is to check the stats. Low altitude lift is what determines how much it can lift off the ground, like on the hovering distance, which in this case are these hovers themselves. You put something heavy into the container and then look if the low altitude lift is still good. On this point it's almost 3G, which is not too bad, but I would not go under 3Gs. I mean 2Gs it will hold, it's not too bad, it will work, but I would not recommend it. And the high altitude lift, I would not go under 6Gs when you have cargo on. So if you take the cargo off, as you can see it's 34 Gs, but with cargo it went down to 8G. So I think 8G is pretty much, you know, as low as you want to go really, because otherwise you're gonna struggle getting into the space with it. But then again, you can check the space thrust in here. So if that's over 2 Gs, then you shouldn't have any issues escaping the atmosphere. And again, there is another thing to note, because this is on Alloyet, which is one of the hardest planets to get off from, because it has 1 G and the atmosphere thickness is not as thick as it is on like Thetis, for example. Thetis has twice as low gravity and twice as thick atmosphere, so it's a lot easier to, you know, carry stuff in there. If this ship can lift, let's say 500 tons on Alloyet, then it will be able to lift like 2 tons on Thetis. So that's how it works. Let's move on with this. If you're lacking the stats, you can always put more stuff on it. But another thing to note about the hovers is that they don't work in space. For that, you need vertical boosters. And by space I mean on space stations and on moons. For that you need vertical boosters. A lot of people are using only vertical boosters, but the downside of the vertical boosters is that they eat a lot of fuel and they need to be linked to the space fuel tank. So that's the downside. That's why I don't personally like them. Let me just show you the difference between them. They do give a lot of lift, as you can see, compared to the hover. They give twice the lift, but look at the fuel consumption. That is ridiculous. That is of course on 100%, but still, that is absolutely ridiculous. As you can see, if you put 2 hovers on, you get the same kind of lift as one vertical booster, but the fuel consumption is just absolutely in the, through the roof. It's through the sky and through the universe, not just through the roof. And also if you look at the tonnage, they are also pretty heavy compared to the hover. Actually they are lighter if you want more lift. So again, the vertical boosters, you should only use them if you plan to use your ship on the moons and space stations. And even then it is not absolutely necessary, because you can still land by using the brakes. So these ones are just for heavy lifting. That's what I recommend the vertical boosters for. Only if you need to do some serious, heavy lifting. Because they do have a lot more lifting capabilities than hover engines. Alrighty then, let's move on. You don't need any sideways engines or anything like that. You might need some vertical engines if you want to, again, depends what you want to do with your ship. So, for example, you could put some vertical engines like this, to give you some boost to get out of the atmosphere. But again, it highly depends what the ship is for. Personally, I don't like the vertical engines on normal ships because they are not, really necessary. You use the wings to get into the, upper atmosphere, and then you just angle your ship upwards, and then you can use the thrust to just escape the atmosphere, so it's not necessary. But if you carry a lot of cargo, then you might need vertical, engines. It might, be better for you. So again, highly depends, but on normal basic ships I would not recommend having vertical engines. They just add up to the weight and you rarely use them. So same thing with like forward, upwards, downwards, sideways, all these engines. All you need is just forward thrust, which is the back facing engine. However, we do need brakes, and the brakes, there is also good things to know about them. So the space brakes, they have to be unblocked, which is very important to know. So it's best if you put them like in the front, like so. Let's put one here and then one here. Okay, I twisted them, but wait, did I really twist it like that? Yeah, okay, that one, it doesn't matter. I know it's twisted, but it doesn't matter. And again, we check the stats in here, what we have. Space brakes usually go anywhere between 15 to 25 Gs, depending on what you want your ship to do. But atmospheric brakes should be about twice that. And with atmospheric brakes, they don't get blocked. You can put them literally anywhere you want. For example, we can put them like that, and another one right on top of that, see? And then we can put 2 more on the other side, like so. You can literally put them anywhere you want. You can bury them under the voxels or whatever you like to do with them. It doesn't matter. They never get blocked, so. But space brakes are a completely different story. They get blocked if anything is in the front. And you can check that by this circle. See this orange circle in here? If this circle is not blocked, then the space brake is not blocked. Let me show you. For example, if we make like a voxel pad like that, let's just cut this out and put it a little bit higher. Let's put it here. And if we take the space brake like so, and we go down with it like so, see, as long as this orange circle is above, then nothing gets blocked, then it's fine. A lot of people put them like this, and I personally like to cut this out like so, like this part, so it looks really nice, So that you can do, that's fine. They don't get blocked like that. Right, atmospheric brakes, put them wherever you want. And then finally we need adjusters. This is the most important part in order to turn your ship. Adjuster L. I'm gonna use L once. And the adjusters are 4 times, I believe, from the size. Yes, it's 4 times, as you can see, the max thrust. And you can't stack these. The developers really need to change that. Look at this. This is such a mess. And if I want to use these, then I have to drag them one by one into the slot, but okay. So, adjusters, it works like in real life. It's very simple concept. Some people, they just don't get it, but yeah. It's, just imagine if you would push the ship from this point, what would happen if you would push it from here? Then obviously this front end will turn this way, like that way. And that rear one will turn that way. It's common sense. You can put something like on your table, whatever you have, like a object, whatever object you have, even a mouse, and then just push it with your finger, like from this angle, and see where it moves. And this is how you need to put the adjusters to make sure you have the maximum pushing angle on it. So you want to put them close to the edge, like so. And then another one in here on that side. I don't know where it went now. Where is it? I'm just doing a quick job in here. On the rear, we kinda want to do the same thing in here. So one on one side, the other on the other side. I don't even line them up right now, I just want to show you how to do that. And this gives our ship the ability to turn like this, the yawing capability. And we can also check it from here, from the torque section. See, yaw left and right, it's a lot. And then we also obviously want the pitch up and down, and then also roll left and right. So for pitching capabilities we need adjusters in the middle. It's also best to actually put them on the edges, like so. The further away they are from the center of the mass, the better it is, the better capability it gives you. Like, let's put one in here, and then put the other one on the other side. So this is the best performance-wise, to put them as far into the end as possible. These actually should also go out, but these don't actually matter that much. They don't matter, they can be here, because they only push the ship like that. Same way as these don't matter if they're up or down. But you just want them, you know, these ones you want to be them this way, left to right, as far out as possible. So on the edge here, and that one is on the rear edge. And then we do same with here. I think I'm gonna overview this definitely. You don't need that many on an XS build, but whatever. Let's just put one in here, right? And one somewhere in here. Again, I can't bother lining them up. And adjusters are like space brakes. They do get blocked off if this orange circle is blocked. And in this case, the orange circle is pretty much inside in there, as you can see. Right. You don't actually need them on the rear end at all if you have them in the front, because these ones push the front down and these ones push the front up. But if you want better handling and more, you know, better, you know, performance, then you can also put them on the rear. Again, you can put them on the sides, same way as in the front, the same layout, or you can just put one in the center if you have enough force already. I have hover in the way, so that's gonna be a problem. Or maybe not. Yeah, that shouldn't block the hover off, that's fine. Yeah, on the hovers also, see, that circle needs to be clean, whatever. And so, that is the way we can rotate our ship. And I believe we are pretty much done with this. I don't think you need anything else in here. Well, apart from the radars, these are not necessary, but I highly recommend it. And radars are sometimes weird. For example, the atmospheric radar, sometimes it doesn't, I mean, it gets blocked and it doesn't want to work sometimes. As you can see, it points upwards, the arrows. But I tried putting it inside that ship in there, that white one, on that back wall. And it was just getting blocked no matter how I put it in there. So I think the atmospheric radar wants two sides open. I don't know. If it goes red, then just put it in a different place. Space radar, let's just put it in here. Whoops. Okay, whatever. Doesn't matter. It's fine. See? It's red on some reason. No, it's not. I don't know what the heck that was. If it does that, just put it somewhere else, like just, or you can do that, like that. I think the problem is that the space radar's block check starts from this line in here at the bottom. So if this line is a little bit in the voxels or in the other element, then it gets blocked. So whatever, I'll just leave it floating like that. You link them to the seat, and then you need to make sure that you have some fuel in your tanks. And not too much. I mean, you can fill them up, but if you're not gonna fly too far, then there really is no point putting too much fuel in them, because you're gonna just carry too much weight with you. But that's just a little tiny thing, you know, it doesn't really matter that much. And I believe this ship is done. I don't think you need anything else. Yes, you do. You need vertical wings. And again, we're gonna use M wings in this case. Vertical wings, they are not necessary, but you should use them. And before I move on with this, you can angle the wings. And instead of showing you on this build, I'm gonna just show on the other builds. For example, like these wings, see? They're angled upwards. Like so, so they don't get blocked at all. And you can also stack the wings in the voxels. Like at the back in here, see? They're all stacked in here. These wings, they go like the other way around, so you can make like a really, you know, thick stack in here. And on that ship in there, see, the wings are also stacked inside the voxels. And these are actually small wings facing the other way, see? They go right between here, and they are not blocked at all. And also, as you can see on the side, that's how the space brakes are put in here, inside the voxels. And you can do pretty much the same with adjusters. Personally, I don't really like hiding too many elements. I kinda like, you know, some stuff showing up, you know, but you can if you want to. For example, this thing is very important to know how to stack the wings like so. Because this way they don't add up to the frontal cross section. You can just make a really high stack going upwards, but that's gonna add into the frontal cross section, and that's bad. So instead, you can put the stack of wings behind, and these wings point outwards in there. Therefore they are not blocked by these wings. And see, these stacks, they have the same thing. You see, they are slightly angled. I angled them outwards, and they go just past that point in there. So they are going past that. And same with these wings. See, they also go past. Well, they are pretty much, you know, open in here, but this stack is the same way. See, it goes past like so. And this is the best way to do it on a bigger ships, because you want to have a lower cross section, but more stacked wings. And the engine stacking, yes, it does get blocked, but it still gives better performance. This is just an advanced stuff, and I have shown it on the video where I showed how to build the supersonic builds. So that's also a quite interesting trick to use. Even though it gets blocked, it still gives better performance than having it side by side. So this is my supersonic ship, and it also uses the same kind of wing stacking. See, these wings are angled. A little bit difficult to show, it's dark in here, but see, it's angled like that, and it points past that point, so they're not getting blocked by any of this stuff. And they are not adding to the cross section. Actually they do add, because it goes from here, but it's just a design that I did. I could hide them a little bit more. But the front wings, the vertical ones, see these, they don't add to the front section because they are low here and then they angle upwards in there. So there are a couple of, you know, tricks like that. Same with these engines, they are blocked a little bit, but they still add a better performance than having them side by side. So just trust me on this one, it works better. Alrighty, so back to this build. For example, if you would want to add more wings on this one and don't want to add to the cross section, for example, you could hide all of these adjusters and stuff, you know, behind the wings in here, so it doesn't add up to the cross section or anything. And then what we can do is angle some of the wings somewhere in here. Best way to do that, I use voxels, and I used the 45-degree angle, which is the best one to use. You can put this anywhere you want, point the wing at it. However, you have to note that the wings, if you turn too much sideways with your build, then they're gonna lose lift because they only have 55-degree, you know, angle. So they stop working if you angle them too much, you know, like so, and put them in there, see? And if you're asking how do you know if it's blocked or not, well, first of all it goes red, but the second of all you can check in here, atmospheric element report, airfoil, and in here it will show if it's blocked. I'm gonna show you how it looks like. Let's just take this wing off and put it in the same place, only placed this way. Okay, that's good enough. You have to give it a little bit of time because the block check takes second or a minute to do the check thing. What kind of sorcerer is this? It should be blocked. Okay, there you go. Now it gets blocked. See? 9%. It's probably gonna go up a little bit. Let's check again. 13%. 21%. Yeah, it takes time for the check to, you know, kick in. But see, now it's getting pretty red. It's getting mad that it's blocked. See? 49% already. Probably gonna even go more. See, 53%. But if we undo that action, then it's gonna get unmad. It's gonna chill out. You'll see, look, the wing is gonna chill out. Just give it a second. See, it's chilling out. It's getting blue now. See, it's no longer red, and it's gonna completely disappear. It's gonna chill out, relax. There you go. See, and it's gone, like by magic. And that's the trick behind angling the wings. You can do this also with the vertical wings, which I actually needed to add, and then I got carried away with all this. For example, on this build we could put the vertical ones in here and then point them upwards to save the cross section, but I just can't bother with it, okay? And also don't block off your adjusters with them. I'm gonna just place them right here. I don't care. And we don't need many of them on this build. Maybe like 2 is actually enough, but I'll put 4. That's more than enough. And I think this build is ready for flying. I'm gonna put arch hard on it. I don't know what I'm saying. There we go. And let's get into it, and it should be ready to go. I don't know why it's hovering right now. I don't know what's up with that. Landing gear you don't need, but okay. And alright then, let's see how it flies then. I'm gonna get knocked by that now. Ah! Okay, I can't see anything at all. It's just so dark. There we go, that's much better. And let's see how it turns. Sideways test. Yeah, see, if it does that, if it lags behind, then you need more vertical wings, obviously. But if you're gonna turn this way and then turn, then see, it goes instantly because it has insane lift, see? I'm just holding the button down and it just turns. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, it's the arrow thing that you can enable with, I think middle mouse is default? No, it's not, I think, I don't know, whatever button it is for you. Right, you enable that one. And then you can see, if I turn sideways, it has so good lift that it just instantly turns. See, it's like super good lift. Let's try if it can go into space. I'm pretty sure it can even go like this. I mean, I know it can. I don't have to go in there. Wait, where did my base go? My base is there. The better question is how much cargo it can lift, but this isn't a build testing, you know, video. This just shows you what to do. And I think I have shown you everything there is to show. This is the basic, you know, or well, not basic, all you need to know all in one. And look at the speed limit, it's also pretty good. It doesn't start atmospheric burn or anything. Brakes should be really good. Although you don't want to do stunts in here because sometimes the server like desinks and you smash into something even though you're not close to it, so it's better to brake way, I mean, better safe than sorry, let's put it this way. I want to mention a couple of more things. If you go into the build mode and right click on a wing and go advanced, then you can enable torque. At first I didn't know what this means either, but enabling torque means that the wing is gonna act as in real life. If you're gonna enable torque on these wings, then it's gonna make it pretty much uncontrollable. Imagine like an arrow, and I mean an actual arrow that you shoot from a bow or something. It has these kind of like feathers at the back, you know, like placed, you know, like this. Like you have one like this, and then one is going downwards and then one is going sideways like that, right? And that's what the torque means, that it acts as in real life. So if you put like this kind of, you know, arrow thing in the back somewhere and enable the torque on all of those wings, then it pretty much flies like an arrow. That if you try to, you know, yaw and turn it like this, the ship, then it's gonna, you know, pull itself, you know, straight again. So that's one of the, you know, good ways to make your ship always straighten itself out. You put the wings at the back and then you enable the torque. Not on all of them, of course, you don't need to enable it on all of them, just a couple of them, you know. And then there is another thing with the hovers. The same thing is with the hovers, you can enable the torque, which means they work as in real life. It doesn't give you the generic lift. For example, if you have two hovers in the front and one in the back, then obviously the front one is going to lift more and the rear one is going to lift, you know, less. However, they still all need to be touching the ground or have the, you know, the, how do you call it, line of sight to the ground, otherwise they are not going to work at all. And then we also have disable thrust along gravity. That's also kind of, you know, complicated, but I'm going to show it in a second what it means. And I believe you also have, yeah, the torque on the engines as well, so that's the same thing. Actually, I haven't tried it on the engines at all, but I believe that adds the same thing. That, for example, if you want to make some really complex builds, like let's say you want to put the engine somewhere in here and angle it like a little bit outwards, like it's very difficult in here, but like this. See, if you want to angle it outwards like that, place one of the engine. If you want to keep the cross section down, you can place one of the engines under angle and then enable the torque on it, and then it kind of, you know, twists the, you know, the ship sideways, you know. So you have to be careful. In other words, that enables the, you know, the real physics for the parts, and they act more like a real, you know, stuff. Because right now, when the torque is disabled, the ship has a generic lift. Just because the wings are at the back, it doesn't mean that it has more lift here and less in here. That's not how it works. But if you enable the torque, then that's exactly how it works. So I hope this explains what the torque means. And finally, to talk about this gravity line thing on the hovers that I showed you before, that disable the gravity along the gravity line something. If you disable that, then you can do this. See, if you tilt your build, then it starts moving, and if you go the other way, it obviously goes the other way. So again, it enables the so-called real-life physics on the hovers. See, I'm not using any thrust at all, and I'm just maneuvering my built like that. See? Like an helicopter. You can actually make really interesting builds with this. You can actually fly really fast if you know what you're doing with it. Again, it's like kind of, you know, advanced mechanism if you want to use that. And let me show you one of the builds that doesn't have it enabled. I believe this one doesn't have it enabled. You see? You can stand like this. I'm not holding the brake. See, the brake is not enabled. If I press, it's on, but I release the brakes and it stands like this. And that means it doesn't have this gravity thing enabled. This option, I keep forgetting what it's called. Disable thrust along gravity. When it's enabled, then it doesn't matter if you tilt your build, it still stands in one place. But if you disable it, then you can do what I did with my kit and moving sideways. And also one final thing is gyroscope, which I am using on this build. I'm gonna show you real quick how it looks like. Excuse me, I need to jump up in here. So as you can see, it's gyro enabled. I'll first show what it does and then I will explain how it works. And if you disable it, look how the view turned. See? I don't know why it still says gyro is enabled, but it's not actually so. As you can see, the view is normal like that, which means the ship orientation is this way. That's front. That in there is rear. But if I put the gyro on, then the front of the ship is facing upwards and the rear of the ship is facing downwards, and that's why the camera is so weird that I can't even move it. And in this case, if your ship works the way mine works, which means it's like lands like this but flies like, you know, the front is where it's facing upwards. Upwards is front, right? So in this case you need a gyroscope. In my case the gyroscope is right there. I think it's better if I just explain it on the other build, but okay. You see the core orientation. This is showing where the face of the build is, which is upwards, like there. That's the front of the build, and the bottom of the build is there, and the top of the build is there. So this arrow indicates which way it is. But you can override this by using a gyroscope. Okay, so I'm in the cockpit. Now I'll show you how the gyroscope works. So you can visually see it. That's off and that's on. And the gyroscope this way, if you put it down, then this is like the core. That's facing. That's the front of the ship on the gyroscope, see? And the bottom is the side it's sitting on. If you turn it off, which is like that, see the lights are off, then it means the ship defaults to the core orientation, which means the front of the ship is upwards. And if you turn the gyroscope on, then the front of the ship is wherever the gyroscope is pointing. You can turn the gyroscope any way you want. You can turn it like this, you can turn it like that. For example, one of the concepts that you can use with a gyroscope is, well, obviously this one, but another one you could use to put a lot of engines facing forward, and you can use the engines as a brake, like basically do a 180. You can make a ship that flies two ways, and then you just change the direction with a gyroscope. So this core unit, it faces that way, and you can put the gyroscope that faces the other way. So you can use the gyroscope again for, you know, really interesting builds, like that one for example, or something that can do a 180 right in the middle of the sky, you know, without even having to turn. But alright, I think it's been long enough, but there is one more thing I want to mention that is quite important. If you're building an atmospheric only ship, for example like these iron stalwarts in here, this one is the default build and it doesn't have space engines. So even if you do that, you should still put on some space brakes. As you can see, it has no space brakes on. Because if you accidentally fly into space with it, you have absolutely zero control. You can't stop, you can't do anything whatsoever. And the same thing goes for the space only ships. For example, if you have the deep space satellite thing, deep space asteroid tracker thing, that thing on it. And if you're just doing asteroid mining and you don't plan on coming into atmosphere with your ship, then I still strongly recommend having enough atmospheric brakes to be able to stop your ship. Because if you accidentally fall into the atmosphere, then you're pretty much toast. So this is why it's very important. It doesn't matter if your ship is atmospheric or space only, you should always have both brakes on. Not too many of them, but just enough in case, you know, emergency and you need to actually stop. But that concludes the shipbuilding tutorial. It does look ugly, yes, but it flies very well. And that's all you need to know on how to build a ship in Dual Universe. I hope you found it useful, and I hope to see ya next time.